I found out on a Tuesday afternoon in the least cinematic way possible. A hotel confirmation email blinked across the top of our shared tablet while I was paying the electric bill. His name, a downtown hotel 15 minutes from our house. One night, Friday. At first, I assumed it was a mistake. A conference. A surprise for me, maybe. But there was no note, no anniversary, no business event on his calendar. Just the reservation and a forwarded message from a woman whose name I recognized only because I'd seen it light up his phone a few times over the past year. I didn't confront him that night. I made dinner. We talked about traffic and grocery prices. I watched him laugh at something on his phone and felt something quieter. Then anger settled inside me. It wasn't heartbreak yet. It was the slow realization that he thought I would never look closely enough to notice. I waited 2 days before contacting her husband. I found his name through public records and social media. I didn't write anything dramatic, just a short message. I believe our spouses have plans this Friday at the Hamilton Hotel. I have proof. If you want to see it, I'll share. He called me within an hour. His voice was steady in the way people sound when they're trying not to panic. He didn't accuse me of lying. He didn't defend her. He asked for the confirmation number. We didn't talk long. We didn't bond. There was no shared outrage. Just a practical question hanging between us. What do we do with this? I don't know which one of us suggested booking the room next door. It felt less like revenge and more like an experiment. If we were wrong, we'd walk away embarrassed. If we were right, at least we would know without being told we were paranoid. Friday evening, I told my husband I had dinner plans with a friend. He barely looked up. The Hamilton Hotel lobby smelled like polished marble and artificial citrus. It was the kind of place that tries to feel anonymous. I checked in under my own name. The clerk handed me the key card without hesitation. Her husband, Mark, arrived a few minutes later. He looked like a man who hadn't slept properly in days. We nodded at each other. No handshake. No forced sympathy. Our rooms shared a wall with theirs. Inside, the silence felt heavy. I could hear faint laughter through the wall after about 20 minutes. A man's voice I knew intimately. A woman's voice I didn't. I expected to feel explosive anger. Instead, I felt something clarifying. The sound stripped away every doubt I'd been negotiating with for months. The late meetings. The phone turned face down. The defensiveness when I asked simple questions. Mark sat in the chair by the window, staring at the carpet. Neither of us spoke much. There wasn't anything left to theorize. After an hour, he stood up. "I'm going to the front desk," he said quietly. I followed. We didn't storm anywhere. Mark approached the clerk and explained, in controlled language, that he believed his wife was in a room under false pretenses and that he was legally married to her. He asked to confirm the registration. The clerk hesitated, then called a manager. Authority, when it appears, doesn't shout. It wears a navy blazer and carries a tablet. The manager asked for identification. Mark provided his. I provided mine. We showed proof of our marriages. The manager excused herself briefly, then returned with a professional expression that didn't reveal judgment. She knocked on their door. The hallway felt brighter than it had a few minutes before. Every sound echoed. My husband opened the door halfway. His face shifted when he saw the manager, then fully when he saw me standing behind her. The woman behind him, Mark's wife, froze. No one screamed. There was no dramatic confrontation. The manager simply stated that there had been a request to verify occupancy due to a complaint and asked if everything was in order. In that sterile hallway, with fluorescent lights humming overhead, secrecy evaporated. There were names on screens, marriages on record. No room left for creative explanations. My husband stepped into the hall, closing the door behind him. "What are you doing here?" he asked, but the question sounded thin. "I wanted to be sure," I said. He began to talk, something about misunderstanding, about needing space, about how it wasn't what it looked like. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just let the silence sit between us long enough for him to hear how insufficient his words sounded. Mark asked his wife one question. "Were you going to tell me?" She didn't answer. The manager, sensing the personal nature of the moment, excused herself. But the damage was already done. The affair wasn't private anymore. It wasn't theoretical. It was fluorescent and documented and undeniably real. We didn't stay. Mark and I returned to our separate rooms, packed our things, and left independently. In the car, my husband called me 6 times. I didn't answer. At home later that night, he tried to frame it as a mistake, a lapse, a complicated emotional situation. He said he hadn't meant to hurt me. He said it didn't mean what I thought it meant. For the first time in years, I didn't try to decode him. It means you made a choice, I said. And you assumed I wouldn't see it. He kept talking, but I was already somewhere else in my mind. Not planning revenge, not imagining reconciliation either, just assessing. The next week, I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer. Not because I was certain I would file, but because I needed information that didn't depend on his version of events. He noticed the shift. He became attentive, then apologetic, then anxious. The power he thought he held, control over the narrative, over my reactions, was gone. I wasn't fighting him. I wasn't pleading. I was gathering facts. Months passed in a strange, flattened rhythm. We attended counseling twice. He promised transparency. I listened, but I no longer strained to believe him. What changed wasn't my anger. It was my dependence on his validation. One evening, while he was in the shower, I realized I hadn't checked his phone in weeks. I hadn't asked where he'd been. I hadn't replayed the hotel hallway in my mind for days. I had stopped trying to prove something to him. I signed a lease on a small apartment near my office, 3 months after the hotel night. When I told him, he looked stunned, not because he didn't know I was hurt, but because he hadn't believed I would act independently. "You're really leaving," he said. "I'm choosing differently," I replied. There was no celebration, no dramatic final argument, just boxes, paperwork, and the quiet understanding that dignity sometimes looks like walking away without demanding applause. The hotel hallway didn't give me revenge. It gave me clarity, and clarity was enough.